Book your wedding day with us. Salon DNA 415-956-1909.
Hi, and welcome to California Up Now. I'm Claudia Iseman, and we are all about the people and the issues that make our Golden State great. Our guest today is Scott Wiener, San Francisco Supervisor for District 8, who is also a candidate for State Senate, District 11. And today we're talking about immigration. Thanks for coming in, Scott.
Thanks for having me.
Sure, we're happy to have you since you're just right around the corner. So let's start off with talking about the amount of immigrants that are coming into our state. We have approximately 2.4 million undocumented workers in California. Do you see this as an issue for our state?
Well, California is a state of immigrants from around the country, immigrants from around the world, and that's always been who we are, and it's one of our greatest strengths, the diversity of the state, and that we have people who want to come here to make lives for themselves. So we have a large immigrant community, which is amazing, and we do have a lot of undocumented immigrants here in California who are raising their families here, who are working and contributing to our state's economy, and it's really important for us to support them.
And speaking of that, do we have the infrastructure in our state to support them in terms of health care and education?
Well, in terms of the infrastructure that we need in California, it's really not about whether someone is an undocumented immigrant or not. It's about the number of people we have in California. We have grown as a state significantly. We're projected to keep growing. And we, as a state, for all of our people, no matter who they are, need to do much more in terms of investing in our public education system, in our healthcare infrastructure, in our higher education system, and in our housing and transportation infrastructure. So we just need to make sure that we are keeping up. And frankly, California has been falling behind. But that is true for all of our residents, whether they're citizens or documented immigrants or undocumented immigrants. We do, as a state, prioritize making sure that every child has access to education and to health care, and that all families can succeed.
Great. All right. Well, last month, the Supreme Court affirmed a lower court decision to block President Obama's immigration plan known as DAPA, Deferred Action for Parents of Americans. What does that mean for California? Well, first of all, did you see that as a setback for us?
The Supreme Court's ruling was a big setback for California, but for millions of families throughout this country. I support the president's action to try to stop the deportations and to stop the division of families. Because right now, we have millions of families where the children are U.S. citizens and the parents are undocumented. And you can have a situation, and we do, where parents get deported and then the children are here. And it's a terrible situation, and our immigration system should not be dividing families and undermining families. And so the president's executive order was a really smart one to say that we're not going to deport the parents of U.S. citizens. We're going to allow people to stay here, to work, to succeed as families. And fundamentally, government is about allowing people and families to have an atmosphere where they can succeed. And so the Supreme Court's ruling, which frankly, it was a 4-4 split because the Republicans in the Senate will not confirm the president's nominee. And a 4-4 split means automatically the lower court ruling, which was a bad one, is affirmed. So hopefully the Supreme Court, once it's fully staffed, will be able to correct that, and we can really move away from this terrible deportation system.
So if Obama leaves office, then what happens to that DAPA?
I don't personally, I hope that he's succeeded by Hillary Clinton and that she keeps it in place and continues to fight, and that we can get a 9th Supreme Court justice and hopefully win on in the Supreme Court with a ruling saying that the president does have the power to grant this relief to immigrants. That's my hope.
Okay. Last year, in 2015, January of 2015, it became legal for undocumented workers to apply for driver's licenses. And we have something like 830,000 applications for driver's licenses in California. Besides the additional traffic, do you see this as a problem for our state?
Well, I don't know that it does create additional traffic. I mean, the reality is we have millions of undocumented immigrants living in the state, and they're either driving or they're not driving. If someone needs to drive to get to work or to get their kids to school or to go grocery shopping or to go to the doctor, they're going to drive whether or not we give them a driver's license.
True.
And so and they'll be driving without a license, without insurance. It's worse for them. It's more dangerous. And so we have this reality in our state, and so it makes all the sense in the world to provide these undocumented immigrants with a driver's license. Let them, we want people to come out of the shadows. We want to have good safety measures. And so I think it makes our roads safer when we have all of our drivers having driver's licenses, having insurance. It makes sense to me.
And do you see that our state is becoming more immigration friendly? I mean, certainly that was a step towards that.
I believe so. It was 20 years ago, a little more than 20 years ago, when California passed Prop 187, which is a horrible measure that basically demonized and stigmatized undocumented immigrants so they couldn't access any public services, including schools and health care. Just a terrible measure. Fast forward 20, 25 years, and the state is a different place. Our state government, both our governor and our legislature, are very pro-immigrant. The legislature has passed and the governor has signed not just the driver's license bill, but also legislation that Senator Ricardo Lara from Southern California authored to provide health care to undocumented children. To make sure they have the health care that they need.
Right.
So it's not perfect, but the state has moved in a much more positive direction, and people understand that our diversity is what makes us strong, and we need to celebrate that.
And if you are elected to the state Senate, is there anything in particular involving immigration that you would like to see accomplished?
I think a few things. I think we need to continue to expand access for all immigrants to education and healthcare. Education and healthcare are two of the pillars in terms of having successful people, successful families, a successful society. And we have too many people who continue to lack access to healthcare because the Affordable Care Act does not cover undocumented immigrants. We have too many children who lack access to quality public education. And this is about the future of our state, and those are going to be two very high priorities for me.
Okay, I know from our last interview that you're not a big fan of Donald Trump.
That's correct.
So one final question here. Suppose, let's just play a little pretend game here. He is elected and he wants to build that wall, and you're in the state Senate. What are you going to do?
Let's hope and pray, and not just hope and pray, let's work hard to make sure that man doesn't come anywhere near the White House. He is a despicable human being, and the sort of fascism that he's been promoting, not just his positions, but his style of saying, if you disagree with me, I'm going to go after you. It is really, it's scary. If, God forbid, he wins, we'll have to, of course, start working immediately to defeat him for re-election 4 years later. But that wall is never going to get
No,
built.
you don't think?
It's ridiculous. It would be unbelievably expensive. And this idea that he's going to force Mexico to pay for it is a joke. If, God forbid, he wins, we will all have to get so organized to fight his crazy agenda.
Okay, well, thank you, Scott.
Thank you.
All righty. And thanks for watching. Remember to like us on Facebook, or if you have a question or comment, you can send them to tips@newsupnow.com. We'll see you next week.